it is my distinct pleasure to welcome a woman I've baptized as my new bestie, aka Rich Auntie from Dubai, aka Senior Counsel, Zehrabanu Janmohamed. Welcome to Double O Direct.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here.
I'm not so sure. Once you do the interview, we'll see.
So the thing is, you are a leader, a pillar in a field that's primarily male dominated. You're also a minority, not just as a woman, but also culturally. How did you end up being a lawyer?
Well, being a lawyer was, I think I talked too much. So everybody decided maybe she should be a lawyer because she talks a lot, even if it was just talking nonsense.
Yes.
But I suppose I had certain role models that I saw who were lawyers. And that's just what got me to be a lawyer.
What about your parents and growing up in Nairobi?
Well, my parents are not from an educated background. I think mum went to Standard 7, dad went to Form 2 and started working. And I grew up in a city council estate. So, I mean, there was no choice, nothing like taking a sabbatical. It was go to school, do your O-levels, do your A-levels, go into university. You didn't have a choice. There were no choices.
Yes.
So it was, you're going to get educated. And I remember at about 17, I had my first marriage proposal. I know it sounds very odd, but I did.
Yes.
I have no clue who the man was. Nobody even asked me. And all my dad told him was, sorry, my daughter's going to study. No can do.
But is that stereotypical of your community? Because the assumption was girls are married off young, the boys are the ones who are educated.
When I was growing up, yes.
Okay.
I do know that I'd asked for loans from certain people in the community, but because I was a girl, girls don't get educated. Girls get married at 17 or 18, have their 2.2 kids
Yes.
by 22 and get on with your life.
The interesting thing is you come from a family of just two siblings, you and your sister,
Yes.
but you're both extremely highly educated.
Well, I don't know if you call me highly educated, but educated.
Or let me say highly successful because your sister is in the medical field?
My sister is one who doesn't want to take responsibility or didn't want to. She did her BSc in Kenya, went to England, did a PhD in molecular biology, did research for 5 years, and then decided to become a medical doctor. So she likes to call herself Dr. Squared.
Oh, Dr. Squared.
Yes.
And what about yourself? Because eventually you did well in high school and you managed to go to the UK to study law.
Yes.
Post that, you've only been employed. You have the worst CV. In fact, that one stint in the UK, most people would admit because it's so short. But you got into a law firm in the UK.
No, I didn't.
No?
I never worked in the UK.
What was the stint you had after university?
I became a barrister.
Okay.
So I went to Lincoln's Inn,
Yes.
finished college. Dad said, finished my bar. Dad says, you're coming back home. No choice.
So then how did you choose this current law firm? What stood out for you?
Well, the senior partner there was Mr. Reg Sampson, who was also my pupil master. He was into cricket.
Okay.
So that's what stood out in the law firm, cricket.
Yes.
So that's how I ended. I applied in 86 when I'd come here for a holiday, got stuck here because England had bad weather, couldn't fly back out for about a couple of months. And I just applied there and he told me, come whenever you're ready. So come December 87, January 88, I started my pupillage there. And you're right, I have a bad CV.
You've never left.
I've never left.
Never been tempted to start your own thing?
Well, I'm a partner there now, but I suppose I'm a consistent person.
You really, really are. You really, really are. So moving back to the cricket, because now you are the chairperson of the African Cricket Association and the Cricket Association here in Kenya as well.
I was.
Oh, you were.
I was.
Did you play? How did that end up happening?
Well, when we were growing up, there was no women's cricket when I was growing up.
Indeed.
So it was only all-male sport. And my dad and my cousins and all were cricket buffs. Mm-hmm. So what does a 3-year-old me do? Go to watch cricket every Sunday. And that's what we used to go with our picnic baskets and my dad, and off we'd go along. And that's how I got into cricket and never looked back from there.
You never played yourself?
Well, we played in schools where the
Yes.
boys used to bully us because that hit the ball harder.
Yes.
But that was it. Couldn't play because, like I said, there was no girls' team whatsoever.
But the passion remained
The passion remained.
into your private life as well.
Yes.
Is that how you met?
My husband and I met because of cricket, yes. I met him in 2002 when he was the coach of the Pakistan team.
And he never left.
Oh, no, he left. We got married 4 years later.
But speaking of the Pakistani team, I understand that you were an umpire at some point.
Yes.
And there was an incident where they were unhappy with having a woman umpire. Describe that.
That was in 1994. And I think UAE was playing Pakistan A that was here. And
Yes.
so just to be difficult, somebody said, let's get Jackie to umpire. And so off I came in my white coats. At that time, you had to wear your doctor-like coats. So,
Yes.
and the Pakistan team says their manager was a general who says, we're not coming out to play because it's a woman. And I said, okay, I'll just hand it over to the UAE. Eventually they came out. But for the next 2 weeks while they were here, they continued to complain about it. There was no,
It wasn't over it that for them. Now, I'm going to go into incidences that you felt sidetracked or maligned simply because you're a woman. But first, I want to understand, Jackie, where does that name come from?
Well, when I was born, Jacqueline Kennedy, so I'm not as young as you think I am. Jacqueline Kennedy was very famous.
Yes.
So when I went to my Mariakani flats, which is where I grew up, and I was there almost half my life, and the neighbor decided Jacqueline Kennedy was, and I was a girl, so the neighbor started calling me Jacqueline. Then Kennedy gets assassinated a few months later. So they said, oh, no, Jacqueline's a bad name. So it stuck to Jackie, and it's not an official name. I don't have it anywhere in my papers, but it's Jackie.
Amazing, amazing. Now, getting back to your law career, which here started in 1989 at your current law firm, which now you're a partner, take me through the highlights. I know it's a long time, but as my former boss of mine used to say, top line. Give me the top line highlights of your career.
Well, I suppose it all if you really look at it, it was just going to court every day. And the highlights were when I represented the other media house at the OCO Commission, when I ended up in the Court of Appeal when I was sort of 2 months in practice.
You were the only woman lawyer at that.
Yes, when I went to apologize on behalf of one of the law firms.
Yes.
One of the media houses,
Yes.
because they had got some article wrong, and it was to say, we're very sorry and we won't do it again.
Yes, yes.
So it was going to the Court of Appeal when you were 2 weeks into practice, or, So, like I said, I've always enjoyed what I do, which is going to court. So if somebody says, what was the highlight? I think every day is a highlight. It's fun. Even today, 33 years later, I still love going to court. I know it's chaotic. People say I'm mad, but it's the highlight.
Any particular cases that stand out for you?
A lot of cases get very emotional,
Yes.
especially when you're dealing with a children's case and all that. And
Yes.
the one case that really stood up for me was a case that we did relating to a child. When the mother came back with the child to Kenya, being a Kenya citizen, and a high court gave an order that the mother and the child should go back to England. And, and the child, it was very emotional. I mean, it's literally emotionally draining.
Yes.
And that, like I said, and when we managed to get the Court of Appeal to say, yes, once a child is in Kenya, it's under the Children's Act.
Yes.
It was the highlight for me. That was like, I've made a difference.
Yes. Are there any instances where you would decline to represent a potential client?
Yes. I may even start off with a case. There have been cases where a client's come, say, if it's especially in children's matters, and the father says, okay, we're going to pay school fees, and then he changes his mind, and I'll tell him, you and your file, leave my office, because you can't turn around and not do that, or the mother for that matter. There are times that I feel that it goes against a principle I stand for,
Yes.
so I won't do a case.
Yes.
So you do decline.
For example, have you ever felt, undermined or maligned publicly or privately simply because you're a woman? Because Double O Direct speaks primarily to women, although we have a large male audience. But have you ever felt, this is happening, apart from the instance you told me about the Pakistanis and the cricket when you were umpiring, maybe in court or outside of court, where you felt this is a gender issue?
I think in the old days when we started practicing, and this is something that I always said that we have a generation of women where we talk very loudly, and I'm considered loud, I promise you that. And it's because we felt we were not being heard.
Mm-hmm.
So you felt that you had to talk loudly to be heard. Yes, in courts, sometimes you've gone to court and the judge will tell the other lawyer, I'm talking about the old days, not now.
Yes.
Where the judge would tell the male lawyer, yes, counsel as well. He would tell you, and you're a lawyer as well, yes, young lady. So, you're sitting there and saying, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been instances, even when you get, like I said, when I was growing up and after I'd come back from England as a lawyer, I hear people telling me that, oh, nobody's going to marry you because you're educated. I'm using the word extremely loosely.
Mm-hmm.
You're educated and you've got a job. So no Asian man would want to marry you. So there have been several instances like that. But I think that makes you a much stronger person.
Yes, it does. It really does. And something that came up for me was your being appointed by Kenya's second president to be the executor of his will. That had to demand a lot of confidence, faith, and trust. How did it come about that Kenya's second president, Daniel Arap Moi, gave you this amazing responsibility?
Well, like you've just said, it comes with trust, confidence, and you trusted me. I mean, it's all about trust. That's what executors do. Mm-hmm. You've got to trust the person to make sure that what needs to be done needs to be done. I mean, we all have that in our wills. We appoint people we trust.
Yes.
And that's what happened. I think that's all I can say. Or maybe I had a nice face.
Okay. I've had a lot of people tell me that they don't have wills, number one, but also that they're very ignorant of the law. As a legal eagle, for example, what would you advise? Which laws do you think Kenyans must be aware of, for their own benefit when it comes to, the basics? The Americans, for example, know that they have the right to bear arms. They have the Fifth Amendment. You have to, what laws do you feel every Kenyan should be aware of and understand?
The Constitution?
Yes. Yes, it's a huge document.
Yes,
Succinctly?
but it's where it sets out all the rights. When you're saying, different aspects of the law would be different for different people.
Yes.
It's like, and I'm talking now as a woman, there's this whole issue of matrimonial property, especially when women go through.
Yes.
When they split up and they've done everything, put everything in the husband's name for whatever reason, or the husband hasn't told them and they've worked hard. Those are certain laws that women also need to know. And I just think that, I'll give you simple, my husband and I, and I know it's not a prime example,
yes,
but whenever we invest in properties together, he puts in 10 shillings, I'll put in my 10 shillings, and we have the property together, and we have half share.
Yes.
If I've bought a property for 10 shillings on my own, he hasn't, I turn around and just put my name.
Yes.
So, that way it's because in a lot of relationships and with laws as well, the problem starts when there are financial issues.
Yes.
So we really need to as women, we really need to get that right. It's when you're in love, it's fine. It's when you fall out of love, that's the problem starts.
That's so true. And speaking of where the problem starts, if you look back at your career and you would speak to yourself in 1988, 1989, what are some of the things you'd tell yourself in terms of preparing yourself for now? Because there are a lot of women who would love to go into the legal system. They'd love to become lawyers. They'd love to become women in positions of authority and leadership. But sometimes it looks overwhelming. What can you tell that young girl or that young woman?
One, have faith in yourself. Two, if you're a woman, you've got to work twice as hard to be thought half as good. So you've got to put in the hard work. It's changing. It's now changing over the years, but you've got to work very hard. And for me, I think it's just enjoy what you're doing. Once you enjoy what you're doing, everything else just flows from there.
Speaking of enjoying what you're doing, do you take any pro bono cases?
Yes, I do.
Under what criteria would you take up a pro bono case?
Somebody could call me and say, there's this client there who doesn't have the money, or there's this problem or that problem. And I'll wake up one morning and think, okay, today this is my good deed of the day, and God's out there. He'll show me heaven.
Yes. That's fantastic. And thinking of pro bono, you've been involved in quite a lot of charitable work.
Yes.
Maybe, organizations, associations you've been a part of. Maybe it's been part of the religious or, personal community. How has that come about and what projects have these been?
Well, doing charity was when we were growing up, and it's again my parents. I remember when we were young, we used to go to Mathari Hospital because that was my dad's way of telling us that we were lucky with what we had. Was not a lot, but it was what we had. And we'd go to Mathari and meet the people there. Mum would cook food for them. We'd take food,
Yes.
Soda, whatever there was.
Yes.
So we were taught charity, and we were always told that you must help others. So that's where it all came up from. And then talking of charity, maybe it's because as a girl, I come from a discriminated background when I was growing up. I believe in paying school fees for girls. I know it's sexist and it's maybe not fair. But there are girls that I've paid for who've been through university, but they don't know me and I don't know them.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And, it's just pay, because if I don't pay for their school fees, the parents will get them married.
Yes.
And they're not in Nairobi, they're out of Nairobi. So they are
Yes.
the school fees that I pay. And it's, like I said, it's just something, it's the pleasure of giving, like the COVID. I mean, COVID was really bad. And I remember at one stage, I had to go into isolation for 14 days.
Yourself.
Myself. And that I had not tested positive, but we'd just been in touch. It was early April
Yes.
2020. And I was just sitting there and I thought, well, let's start doing this. So I sat in a bed for 14 days in a room watching TV. And that's when I decided, okay, let's go and do COVID food distribution. And Standard APA and people were very, very good to me. They supported me. I had 100 volunteers on speed dial.
Yes.
It was great. Okay, after that, I did pick up COVID in August 2020, but
You made it through.
I picked it up twice. I even had it in December, but that's okay.
Okay. Wow. That's incredible. So you mentioned slightly that you're involved in other works other than, the law firm of which you're a partner. Do you want to expound on some of the organizations or associations that you're a part of?
I'm directors in several companies, and I'm part of FIDA, the women's lawyer group, and
Yes.
it's like I said, I'll just I wake up. I'm a member of about 8 cricket clubs in this country, though I'm not a member of any golf club because I don't play golf.
You're not a member of any golf club?
No,
Okay. You don't play golf?
no,
Never tried?
it's no.
I like how you say no, like you're afraid you'll offend somebody.
It's an elitist sport, as far I know. It isn't anymore, but in the old days,
Yeah.
it was the big boys who used to play golf, not people like us who grew up in South B and went to government schools. And
Yes.
never. I didn't even know what a golf course looked like until probably 1996.
Yes. So apart from never having played golf, is there anything, because you are the definition of an overachiever? I mean, even the fact that you were conferred as senior counsel is a mega achievement. I mean, the only woman chair of a continental cricket association. There are just so many. There are just so many. Is there anything that you're bad at, or anything that you wish you could do?
Swim.
Now you sound like all my relatives who live by the lake but can't swim.
I don't know how to swim.
You don't know how to swim?
No.
But come on, how did that happen?
Well, when you go to Muslim girls' school, which was from kindergarten, my parents were very mean to me. They put me in school when I was 2 years and 2 months.
Yes.
They had no swimming pool in that school. I went to Our Lady of Mercy. I mean, from a Muslim school that dumped me into a Catholic school. So I learned all about the Bible, and there was no swimming pool. And then when I went to Highway Secondary, there was no swimming pool. So I never learned to swim. And my dad was not going to take me to swimming. You got to be kidding.
Yeah.
So we never learned. And he was from Mombasa. My dad was a Mombasa boy. He could swim, but I couldn't swim. And I've never learned to swim.
Speaking of learning things, we've talked a lot about shows. Do you enjoy reading for leisure? I know you read a lot in your work. Do you read for leisure?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as a young woman listening now, and you're thinking, this book was so helpful, this book was so insightful, or this book was so entertaining, name some books. I know. Everyone always says, when you're told to name a book, you're like,
Okay, now let's start off with, I could remember some books, when you were growing up, you read me. Let's start off with Enid Blyton.
Of course.
I mean, you never forget those
Yes,
books when you were
yes.
growing up. Then you graduate into Meals and Boons of James Hardley Chase.
Mumbi, have you heard of Mills and Boons? Mumbi, be honest. No, she's of a certain age. All right, continue.
And from there, then you go into sort of magazines. And at the moment, surprisingly, books that I read I'm always reading John Grisham and
Okay,
James
so
Patterson.
lawyers read lawyer books?
No.
Okay.
And I read this one. I'll tell you one. I read the one of not Malala, but there was this girl in Afghanistan who had to run away, and it was a really touching book. I read it about a year ago or so, and then then you sort of think. Now there's Kindle, so you just pick on everything. You
Yes.
watch movies.
Yes.
When you were younger, there's nothing. It was only
No chance.
No chance. You had
Yes.
to read, and that's why Enid Blyton has really stuck in your head because that's what you grew up with.
Yes. Going back to the law and going to young women thinking of becoming lawyers, I know that believing in yourself is very, very important. But what are some of the tools that you used, not only in law school, but as a pupil and a young lawyer, that you felt really helped curve out your path, other than sticking with the same firm for over 30 years?
I think what happened was that even mentorship of your pupil masters, your bosses, it was, and wanting to achieve, like I said, it's hard work.
Yes.
You've got to, if you don't work, it's not happening. There are no shortcuts. And, it's even today, I can work till 2:00 in the morning and be in my office at 7.
Wow.
Because you enjoy it. And don't go into the profession if you're thinking that it's only because you want to make money. It's not going to happen. And that's when the problems start. Because if you don't make money, then you're looking at shortcuts.
Yes.
So for me, it was just reading, watching people. Like in those days, we used to go to court and they used to get all these lawyers arguing. Got nothing to do with you, but what they're arguing about, you're actually looking at the books to say, hey, hang on, they're arguing about this. So
Yes.
going into that, listening to what their submissions were, listening to their cases. These days, what I do see on the phone, and this is no disrespect meant to young lawyers, is they are fiddling on Facebook. They're not listening. Oh, yeah.
No,
There's
no.
Facebook, Twitter. Oh, yeah. And, they're not listening to what somebody else is saying.
Yes. Yes.
And that's, I think, if you're a hearing person,
Yes.
you actually think, hey, hang on, this works with the case. Oh, I know another case that I'm handling with. I'll deal with it. So a lot of people don't listen,
Yes.
whether it's virtually or physically.
Spaces that the law has taken you that you never thought you'd go to. For example, have you ever been afraid, physically, especially as a woman dealing with a certain case, or have you ever ended up, let's say, for lack of a better place, Maldives because of a case? Places that the law has taken you physically or psychologically that you'd like to share?
That's a tough question. I've been to the States for a couple of cases, and because my clients were here, so I've traveled the world, but half the time I travel because of pleasure.
Yes.
Which is a vice I have as well, but once it's like you said, fear. Once you're street smart, that fear never comes in, because when you have faith in what you're doing and you have faith in your case, and that people do see you, that they're not going to. Why would anybody come for you as an individual?
Yes.
I know it happens, but maybe I've been fortunate where, they've been emotionally, certain cases have taken their toll on me, when you've lost a case and you're just thinking, oh my God. It takes you to a bad place in your own head,
Yes.
where you can even lose confidence. But physically, maybe it's because I don't do a lot of criminal work. I've never done criminal work. So
You've never done criminal work?
No.
Okay. So if I murder somebody, you're not the person to call?
No, shouldn't be on your speed dial.
Well, I've just admitted I murdered the person. So if I'm accused of murder, you see, I'm that client. You're like, don't open your mouth,
But you have the right for representation. Your lawyer just would not put you in the witness box because you've told your lawyer that.
Okay, that's very, very true. How do you first have your consultations with potential clients? I know that's a very tricky thing to ask, but someone calls you up. What then happens?
Well, if they call me up and if they sound interesting on the phone, I'll tell them, let's have a meeting, because I don't like discussing things on the phone. Not because I'm worried about somebody listening to the conversation, but you don't get a feel of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You call them, I meet them, and if I'm willing to take the case, we take it forward. If not, I'll tell them, look, I can't handle this because of 1, 2, 3, 4, or I'm conflicted. The first thing you do is when they call you is you do a conflict check, obviously,
Yes.
to make sure that there is no conflict.
Excellent. More with Jackie, aka Senior Counsel Zehrabanu Janmohamed, in a bit. So, Jackie, as they call you, what's your morning routine like?
You wake up.
And then?
And then get grumpy all morning. Just get out, hit the shower, look for something to wear. Don't talk to anybody. Bad move to talk to me in the morning.
When do you have the coffee?
At about once I've all dressed up and I'm now going to have my cup of coffee. It's still bad move.
Yes.
My husband doesn't talk to me in the morning. He leaves me, lets me be.
He lets you be till around 11:30.
Well, by about 8:30, I'm fine.
You're fine.
Yes.
Early riser?
Yes. Because I wake up every morning to say my prayers at 6.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask if you meditate.
Yes, it's prayers. Muslim.
Yes.
Pray 5 times a day.
Yes. That is so interesting. Now, we're talking about so many different experiences that you've had. You touched slightly on your vices. You and I share a big mouth. But what other vices do you have? What should people watch out for?
Coffee? Mm-hmm. It's a vice. Well,
Yes.
a vice is what you consider to be a vice. Let's start from there.
True.
So, I mean, I can't live without my coffee. And in Ramadan, it gets very difficult
True.
because, you don't have anything from morning to evening.
Yes.
The other vice, and it's a big problem, is brain-mouth coordination.
Okay.
Mouth speaks, brain thinks. I have been called a lunatic because of the lack of brain-mouth coordination, where after I've said it, I'm going, oops,
Yeah.
bad move, shouldn't have said it, but it's a bit late now.
And it's out there.
It's out there.
Tell me about the title of Senior Counsel and the steps that from your pupillage to that title, what occurred?
Well, Senior Counsel is, it's been there. It came up in 2013 when I think when the Chief Justice was Justice William Mutunga, and at that time they took all the former chairmen of the Law Society. After that, they made it to that people had to apply to become Senior Counsel. So it was by application, and there's a committee that sees whether you deserve to be a Senior Counsel or not.
What rights and privileges does it award you as a Senior Counsel? What does it actually mean?
Well, what it means is it's like a recognition in the profession, one. Number two, okay, I know this is going to sound very facetious. It allows you to speak first before anybody else. The judge calls you first. And you can sit on the front bench.
Yes. That's incredible. That's absolutely. You never thought about becoming a judge?
No chance.
Why? You'd look good in red. I mean, I'm just saying.
I think being a judge is a calling. And I love my freedom.
Yes.
I mean, I travel, I can deal with cases that I want to deal with. Whereas as a judge, you don't have that freedom of traveling. I can wake up one morning. The only thing I need to do is sort out my court diary. And if I have a visa, I'm gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of gone, and speaking of Jackie outside of the courtroom, what entertains you?
Myself?
Primarily. We'll leave the husband out.
Myself, I mean, exactly.
Yeah.
No, what entertains me is
Because you have to decompress. I mean, it's very heavy.
I love meeting my friends. And I've got a core group of girlfriends, and, we can just sit there and just cackle away, literally, and have a great session of solving the world's problems.
Yes.
And if you ask us the following day what happened, we have no idea what we solved, but we solved something. And traveling. And
Most
watching
interesting
movies.
places you've been?
Well, Turkey, I love Turkey. It's really nice. I've done a lot of Africa. I want to go to North Africa. I've never done that.
Okay.
And I've been to India. Well, I've been the subcontinent, and I'd like to do a cruise in Turkey.
Oh, wow. That sounds marvelous.
Yes.
You're often abroad and you represent Kenya by sheer fact of being a Kenyan. What do you see? Because tourism is such an important sector for us. What do you see that we're doing right, and where do you think we could improve on that sector? Because you obviously go out because of some allure that destination has, and we'd like others to have that same allure for Kenya. Understanding both sides of that equation, what do you think?
I think one of the biggest problems we have is when we go out as Kenyans, and I've seen that and it really upsets me, is we go and gripe about our own country. Yes. I mean, I can have my problems in Kenya and I have my own issues, but when I go out there, it's the best thing that's ever happened.
Exactly. It's like a marriage. You can argue with him, but out there, he's the best man in the world.
And that's one of the things that I've noticed that we do really badly. What I think is that we don't market certain areas like, surprisingly, this was something I went on a chopper ride.
Wow.
And it was to go to Samburu, Turkana and all that. That is a gem that we've not really marketed.
Yes.
The Mara is all great.
Okay.
You know, we say everybody knows the Mara. But there are other parts of this country that we've not marketed. You know, ask anybody, they'll say Mara, Mombasa. There's nothing.
Or
wrong.
Lamu, maybe.
Exactly.
Yes.
After that, Lamu, people say there are spirits there, so I'm scared of going to Lamu. But I've never been to Lamu because I was told when I was a child, if you go under a tree in the evening after 6, a genie will come for you. So I'm so scared of. I'm sure it's a wonderful place, and most people from Lamu couldn't get me
Are
wrong.
you having me on, or are you serious?
I'm serious.
No, can I? Federico, Majlis, we have a lady that desperately, urgently, bring the husband. It's romantic. There will be no genies under trees. Majlis, Federico, I'll call him after this, I tell you. No, but seriously. Okay, so you're right. There are many fantastic places around the country that should be marketed.
Yep, and like I said, Kenya's a beautiful country. I mean, Nairobi is not Kenya, but a lot of people seem to think Nairobi is Kenya.
Yes.
It's like my friends who come here, I tell them, come, Nairobi's only, you land, spend a night here,
And you're
after
out.
that you're out. Then come back if you need to go somewhere else, spend another night here and go off. Nairobi should just be a base. And like, you look at what they've done to Dubai.
Yes.
I mean, you look at Dubai and you sit there, they sold air, they sold sand. I remember going to Dubai in 1996.
Yes.
It was all sand. And what you see today, you're sitting there and thinking, and it's so transient. We have culture. We have so much going for us. But
Yes.
I don't know what we get wrong.
In tourism.
Yeah.
Speaking of other sectors that we could promote with regards to Kenya, sport is a major passion of yours, especially cricket. So talking about cricket, where are the gaps, and then perhaps in other sports as well?
Well, I wouldn't want to talk about cricket on its own, but I know government had started helping sports to an extent, and I'm not trying to be critical again of anyone, but you can't have your sporting federations dealing with the infrastructure as well as getting the players sorted out.
Yes.
There's got to be a partnership. And sports is not only about money, it's about infrastructure. Like for cricket, you need grounds, you need pitches, you need watering. And what we have is private clubs. Like Cricket Kenya didn't have a ground of its own.
Yes.
And I don't believe they have now, though there was 5 acres in Kasarani that was given to cricket.
Yes.
But I went to look for it 3 times, but didn't find it.
Does the association go to a grassroots level in schools? Like how does it work?
Yes. They have, like I said, the problem is cricket needs to be put in, sports needs to be put into the curriculum of schools. And that's where the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Sports, all of them have to come together. Because once it's in curriculum, people, when you have PEs, even in government schools,
Yes.
when you have your physical education,
Yes.
you can. Cricket is there. I know it was going to be taught at university so that the physical education teachers
Yes.
could be learned about cricket, because cricket can sound complicated if you don't know it well enough.
Yes.
Take it to the schools.
Yes.
And that's one of the ways that you can do it for any sport.
Yes. On a Pan-African level, you are the chairperson of the African Cricket.
Was.
Well, whilst you were, where did you see the gaps, or where did you see, the major leaps forward for cricket on the continent? I know only a few countries that actually play cricket, but
You'd
maybe
be
I'm
surprised
mistaken.
we're a lot more.
Okay.
I know it's what I liked about Africa and a lot of you see what's happened is when you're playing international tournaments,
Yes.
there's a regulation of the International Cricket Council
Yes.
where you can have stayed in a country for 2 years even if you're not a citizen.
Yes.
But a lot of Africa, the development is our local players.
Yes.
It's, the Africans themselves. And I don't mean that in a racist sense, but like Kenyans, doesn't matter. You hold a Kenyan passport, you're playing.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that we had. And that was one thing I noticed in Africa. Like in Nigeria, all the players are Nigerians.
Wow.
Yes. So a lot of countries play.
Yes.
And, it's Uganda has got certain people who play who are not necessarily Ugandans, but they've stayed there for a long time. It's like in Kenya, I think most of our players are Kenyans, Kenyan citizen passport holders.
Yes.
And what has come out of it is, as we speak, there's the Africa Cup going on in South Africa, which was supposed to take place in Kenya. But unfortunately, because of COVID, it couldn't happen in 2020.
Oh.
We were going to be the country to have the inaugural Africa Cup.
So my question is, why did they take it to South Africa once everything opened up? Why not?
Because what happened in Kenya was it was going to get difficult with the COVID regulations and all. And for 2 years, we've been trying to get it done.
Yes.
I mean, it was when I was the chair that we came up with this idea, and there was my whole committee, and that was why it was going to be Kenya.
Yes.
But then, unfortunately, like I said, COVID, and it's now in South Africa, and it's being televised live.
Yes.
In fact, this afternoon, Kenya is playing Tanzania.
I'm sure we'll be glued to that. So with the International Day of the Girl Child coming up in about a month's time, what can you see and do for the girl child in Kenya and across the continent? Because we are still not there yet. There's still a lot of challenges, still a lot of barriers. Where do you see those challenges and those barriers in your personal scope and capacity? And what do you think can be done either on an individual level or as a community level or even on a national level?
When you live in Nairobi, you actually don't see the girl child being... Because when you're in the city, it's different. You see women there, they're working, everything's
They're
fine.
driving, they're living a great life.
Whereas when you go out of Nairobi and you go and, you see the girl child where she has to go to school, she has to come home, fetch the water, she's got to cook. And it's still happening, much as we don't want to accept it. Or, and I know it happens in certain areas in this country where by 13 you want the girl child married because she's got to get married. So what we need to do is give some incentive. Either it's to the parents, and I'm looking at it from like in the sporting perspective as well. That's what you could do is give an incentive to say, we will help your girl grow up. It's like fees is always a problem when you have a choice. Who are you going to take? You're going to say it's the boy because he's going to look after me. She's going to get married. And yet that's not always the case. My father always used to say, I'd rather have daughters because at least I know when I die, there'll become somebody to come to my graveside to say a prayer. Your sons are never going to do it.
Wow, that is very deep and very accurate.
So what we need to do is that education. It's like, when you have civic education for elections.
Yes.
You need that civic education to say this girl child is not a second-class citizen. It's the mothers. The fathers are one issue, but it's even the mothers because the mother becomes over-dependent on the girl child.
Yes.
The boy is going to look after me. So, I mean, there's so much that could be done, but it's going out there and speaking to them.
Are you a mother yourself?
No.
Have you ever thought about adopting or caring for children? I know you support a lot of girls' education, and you do a lot for the girl child in a personal capacity, even as part of the community.
No, I've never wanted to adopt a child. I suppose I'm selfish to that extent. It's I, me, and myself.
And the law is your baby.
Yes.
So now we're running out of time, but I want to talk about bucket list because you've achieved so much already. You've been the first Muslim woman senior counsel.
Yes.
You've been the first woman chair of Kenya Cricket Association and a Pan-African Cricket Association and so many other firsts. What is left for you, Jackie?
As far as my profession is concerned,
Yes.
I suppose it's just enjoying what I do. But what I would have in a bucket list as far as profession is concerned...
Memoir.
Actually, I would like to write a memoir. might be a good idea.
Can I be a ghostwriter?
It sounds like a good plan.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Yes. What else would you like?
Well, there are certain places that I'd like to go and visit.
Yes.
It's, like I want to go and see the Northern Lights, go on a cruise there.
Yes. Machu
See
Picchu?
more of Kenya.
Oh, wow.
I want to see, you see, I do a lot of international traveling, but I want to go and see more of Kenya.
Lamu. That's
Lamu. Been to Kilifi, so I'm not doing too badly.
You're not doing too badly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, see more of Kenya and just see these hidden gems that we know nothing about.
Speaking of hidden gems that we know nothing about, what is it about yourself that would surprise people? Things like, I don't know, you climbed Mount Kenya once or whatever. What is it you think people would be like, really? Because you hardly give interviews, Jackie.
What would surprise people about me? I think people think when I'm in court or whatever that I'm very arrogant.
Really?
I do come across as being quite arrogant in the sense of, I'll just do my own thing. I mean, not even when I'm talking to people, but just when I walk in. But I'm very down to earth. People don't realize. And the other thing that shocks people is a lot of people think I come from a very rich family.
I thought you came from royalty. I was like, this must be a brand name. This must be a dynasty of some sort. I was very surprised.
I come from very humble beginnings, and that's what a lot of people don't know. Okay, fine, because, I dress well, if I may say so, at the risk of sounding arrogant. I dress well. And so people think, she must have a rich father, rich husband.
Yes.
And they don't realize that I've worked for whatever I've got, I've worked for it.
Are your parents still alive?
My dad passed away in 2013. My mom's still alive. She's 83.
Wow, that is incredible. We're almost out of time. What about some parting words for those who are listening?
Don't give up. As a woman, don't give up. You can make it, and it's just a question of how hard you try.
Senior Counsel Zehrabanu, Janmohamed, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you on Double O Direct.
Thank you.
SpiceFM.